What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle every day, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Good morning. Cassandra Fairbanks teamed up with timcast.com, and it feels good to say I've got an article to you, not from the New York Times, not from the New York Post, not from the Guardian. It's from timcast.com itself. Biden wants public to report potentially radicalized relatives ramping up information sharing. I'm a grown adult. I guess it can't hurt to reiterate, but I think it's pretty obvious that if you have people who are potentially radicalized, definitely in a violent way, I don't care who they are. If you know about that, then you've got to think about, is that something to report? I think that's common sense. I don't think we need to formalize that, but here we go. The part that I don't understand is we're going to get to that, openly admitting government working in tandem with social media companies to root out this stuff, which is fine. But then don't at the same time tell me these are private companies that have the ability to censor speech. This isn't an airport where you can speak freely in the airport, without breaking the law. But for some reason, we get everybody on these social media companies and now we can't speak. During a formal background press call with reporters on Monday, a Biden administration official said that they want people to report their potentially radicalized friends and relatives. The unnamed senior official also said that they will be ramping up information sharing with big tech companies to spy on social media users. I will go directly to the article. There's a link at the bottom here to the transcript. There's a transcript of the call. So I'll be going direct to the source in a second. In a transcript of the call that was released by the White House, the official said that a study by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence found that domestic violent extremists motivated by a range of ideologies pose an elevated threat to our country in 2021, with racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, and especially those who espouse the superiority of the white race, and the anti-government militia violent extremists posing the most lethal threat. I read through everything here. There was not one mention of anti-fascist groups or Antifa or politically neutral domestic violence or far left. The reason why it's not here is because they don't consider that a threat. Now, we know the FBI has gone to the Pacific Northwest before, but when they say that it's motivated by a range of ideologies, I haven't seen any evidence here. I have never heard them publicly say Antifa is a part of this. And they don't have to say it as Antifa. They can say far left. They can say politically neutral. They can say anti-fascist. I mean, they probably wouldn't use those terms. So there's many reasons why they wouldn't want to say that, because it almost implies that they are fascist if they say we're trying to stop anti-fascist groups. But there's ways that you can do it, because if you're going to call out January 6th, if you're going to call out white supremacy, really Antifa, in my opinion, could be considered under white supremacy, but they don't. They don't do that. So this is not a bipartisan effort here. Further, it found that violent extremists, to promote the superiority of the white race, have the most persistent transnational connections and may be in frequent contact with violent extremists abroad. I did not know that. I will assume that that's true. I wonder what people who live in a community that was destroyed by riots last summer, that resulted in the most expensive property damage in insurance history. We've talked about that. Over $2 billion in damage, and that doesn't even count. That was as of July of last year. That doesn't count any of these riots after that we've had. What do they think of Biden and Garland's assertion terror from white supremacy is the biggest threat to the homeland? This is by Greg Price. You know what they think. They think that white supremacy, you see the circular argument, they think white supremacy is the reason for the property damage. That's what their response would, seriously, that's what their response would be. It's a circular argument. That means you can't have an argument with someone who believes that. Because anything that you test them on, it will be because of white supremacy. I would just note, and this is coming from a senior official, that the senior official went on to suggest that the government needs to do something along the lines of the see something, say something campaign that the Department of Homeland Security following the 9/11 attack on the World Center. So, Department of Homeland Security did that, see something, say something. I think that makes sense. It is dangerous, though. We are getting to the point of where you are turning on fellow citizen and the government's doing that. And a lot of this stuff that they're talking about is arbitrary. I told you in a video I did on critical race theory that I would be considered a white supremacist by those who believe race is a social construct. Now, I'm for peace. Obviously, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm for complete peace. But if you see someone, it doesn't matter about skin color. And then if they're talking about white supremacy, and they're not always linking it up to what is a true danger. Is someone who disagrees with you. Is someone who speaks up at your school board meeting, speaking up against teaching things that shouldn't be taught in school, opinions about race, opinions about our country being taught in school. I'm purposely not going to use CRT because they play that game of semantics. If you stand up and say, well, I'm not for this, I think this is opinion, I don't want this to be taught, I don't want my child to be taught that America is an inherently racist country right now. Are you someone who's going to get reported under this something along the lines of see something, say something? I don't know. And if you are reported, are you going to get an FBI agent knocking at your door? Don't know. See, that's what we have to be careful of. And I still haven't seen the white supremacy. The only thing that they've labeled was Charlottesville and January 6th. Those are the events that warrant this. They have provided no other details other than those two events. The bipartisan effort that they acknowledged was the baseball shooting where the shooter named Democrats as his targets. That's what they're doing. Let's look at the actual call transcript here, and I want to go to the social media part of it, and it's down here later on in the work. So they did a question session here, and this transcript's really good. This is straight from the White House Gov website now. One of the principal tools now at our disposal is our decision to join the Christchurch call to action to eliminate terrorist and violent extremist content online. This is an international partnership between governments and technology companies that works to develop new solutions to eliminating terrorist content online while safeguarding the freedom of online expression. I appreciate that. The freedom of online, we should have freedom of online expression already covered by the First Amendment. You don't need anybody to safeguard that. While you're doing something else, I'm going to safeguard your constitutional right. You shouldn't even have to bring that up because the lines are getting blurred. That's why that was put in there. And that's not to mean that it won't get crossed. I think when you talk about an international partnership between governments and technology companies, I just say you can't call the technology companies a private company anymore when their whole purpose is speech. You can't compare this to like an airport where you have free speech at the airport. No one's going to block you in the airport from saying something. They block you on social media because when you say it, other people can find it. So if I'm having a conversation in the airport, other people can't really hear it. So it's not a danger to the establishment or the government. But if I can make a statement, like I make this video and you somehow have come, thank you for stopping by, somehow you've come, stopped at this video, now that's a danger because now you can share it or you can comment and say, well, you forgot this, or, and then we can build on it. That's the danger, is power. It's straight up a power play. You lose power when common people get to communicate with each other like they've never done before. I looked at, the stats of, where people were watching the video. It's all over the world. People watching videos all over YouTube and even on this channel. It's unbelievable. And that's the threat. The previous administration had decided against participation in this important endeavor, and we determined that it was in our interest to join it and to work collaboratively with countries that share our values and the private sector in countering these pernicious developments in which online platforms are used to promote radicalization and violence. So when you team up with these social media companies, what is that to do? Is that to get IP addresses? I don't understand what the team up is, because the government can go online, they can go undercover and infiltrate, and they have already these groups. What's the extra piece to coordinate with social media for? Is that censorship? That question was never asked here. The media had an opportunity to ask questions, never asked. And if there's censorship going on where the government's saying, hey, social media, stop this, and if it's violent and crazy, then of course it should be stopped because that stuff is illegal. How do we know they're not stopping stuff that is legal? There's videos being pulled from YouTube right now from medical experts or scientists talking about treatments and studies off these treatments. Like talking about facts, and these videos are being pulled from YouTube. And it is unusual because Apple's keeping some of these on their podcast. YouTube is being very aggressive on that. And there's nothing factually wrong in these videos. They just don't want you to talk about it, a certain topic. Probably because of advertiser concerns. How do we know it's not because of governmental concerns? The reporters who are in these meetings, they are supposed to represent us, the American people, and these questions aren't doing it. They're not doing it. And the questions are even phrased in a manner that are disrespectful. Let me give you an example. Hey guys, thanks for the opportunity. This is a press reporter asking a question here to these officials. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why this strategy doesn't take a position on what may be the biggest public policy question in the domestic terrorism arena, which is whether there should be a new statute criminalizing domestic terrorism. Okay. So that's coming from the standpoint of like there should be more laws. And then also, could you talk about what is going to be the inevitable criticism on the right? How is this being phrased? Just ask the question. What is happening here? They prefaced the second question by saying, could you talk about what is going to be inevitable criticism from the right? Why did that have to be a part of the statement? Then they get to that this strategy calls for using the tools of counterterrorism against essentially far-right extremists. Why did they have to preface that question? And if you don't know, if you don't listen to this channel, I'm not on the right. I'm just not on the left. And when you're not on the left, then I know I'm going to be categorized on the right, just like I have two biracial children. They're going to be considered black, whatever. That's what society tells them. But I will raise them to understand your dad is black, your mom is white. That's what it is. People will call you black, but you're really, you could say half black, half white. But it's even deeper than that when you go back to your lineage. So who cares? Why don't they just say this strategy calls for using the tools of counterterrorism? How do you ensure that it's not biased against one side, for example, the right or the left? Even though I continue with the question, and I'm going to end on this one. Even though you're saying it's going to be ideologically neutral, we're already hearing a lot of rhetoric from Republicans and Trump supporters who fear that it's not the case. What they're supposed to represent us, and this is how they ask the question. They preface it with, "Could you talk about what's going to be the criticism on the right?" He or she is almost apologizing for asking this a question and framing the question in a way that it's easy for the government official here to answer it and say, no, that's rhetoric from the right. The reporter is calling it rhetoric. We're already hearing a lot of rhetoric from Republican and Trump supporters who fear that that's not the case. I obviously I don't even need to get into the answer. I'll put a link in the description. Can you believe that? The reporters are there for us, for us. And people talked about the Fox 26 reporter who got fired or resigned after joining Project Veritas on an undercover type thing. That's why. This is just fake. Like the question is fake. It's opinion. Just ask the question. Even though you're saying it's going to be ideologically neutral, the public doesn't trust you guys. The public does not trust that. The whole public does not trust that. Why should we trust it? Instead, they say we're hearing a lot of rhetoric from the right. It's basically probably something you have to do, otherwise you won't be in that position to ask those questions. This whole thing is like bricks falling apart. I'm talking about our country. I'm talking about this whole country. Nothing in here about far left, nothing about Antifa. They've been rioting for every day. I don't know if the streak is still going on. I lost count. I've done a video on it. I'll link it if I get a chance. So I'll end on this. It is a white pill moment, though. Timcast.com. You get to choose where you spend your time and attention. And I'm still going to watch CNN and all the mainstream news and news article sources. But doesn't it feel good? And this isn't about agreeing with Tim or not. Doesn't it feel good to get a source that's independent of that big money? And teaming up with quality. Cassandra Fairbanks is a quality writer. And Tim doesn't mess with anybody who's not quality, so I don't have any concerns there. But doesn't that feel good? I didn't even go to any other article. When times are tough, you find out who people really are. Tim Cass started his Cass Castle, not just talking about losing the culture war. I'm gonna try and do my thing in it. And what you can do, my thing is just doing these videos. But what you can do, and what I can do as well, is if you have the means and the time, support with your financially to somebody independent, whether it's Breaking Points with Sagar and Crystal Bell. Why do I always call her Bell? Crystal Ball. Whether it's Tim Cast, Kim Iverson. There's a ton of people out there. That's how you can start change. You saw the ratings for CNN and these news outlets they're crashing because their purpose is right now, in my opinion, state propaganda. And that's not what people don't want that. And Trump's gone. So the state propaganda against Trump was very profitable. I watched a lot of it. Was interesting. With him gone, There's no state propaganda against Biden. So who are you doing it against? Lauren Boebert? I mean, she's worth it, but she's not. She doesn't garner that same level as Trump. Who is the state propaganda against now? Tucker Carlson. They tried that. That doesn't work. Who is the boogeyman now? They haven't had it. They're still trying to do Trump a little bit, but it's not the same magic because he's not president anymore. Instead of giving the public what they want, they're forcing this issue, and in a free market where Democrats don't get to just put a robot and force my head on CNN. We'll turn it off. So I just wanted to end on something that was a white pill. There's a lot. I might just do a video on white pill moments. There's a lot of white pill moments going on out there. Michael Malice's book, The Anarchy Handbook, a collection of essays, doing very well on Amazon. Independently launched. Michael Malice is, in my opinion, famous now, but he's a libertarian, a very smart guy. Comic Dave Smith was on Fox the other day, just killing it. And there's a lot of, Eric July is doing his thing. You see more parents speaking out, standing up. When you mess with because I have 2 children now, when you start messing with children, teaching them stuff that's opinion, like almost religion, as if it's fact, brainwashing them, that brings out instincts in a parent. So there are a lot of white pill good moments going on here. And I don't want to say that this Biden thing is all wrong. I just want to hear them acknowledge all sides. So let me know what you think. Take care.